The thing that we're going to talk about in this conversation tonight is around hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag All Lives Matter, all of the things around those mini series of events that have led up to this becoming a trending thing on social media.
One of the most difficult things is with being a law enforcement officer is every day when I put that badge on, when I put that star on, when I put my Kevlar vest on, when I put my keys in the ignition, I have to understand that I might not make it home this evening. And this is something I've gone over with my children, with my wife, in that this might be the last time you see Dad. This might be the last time you see your husband. But that's one of the things that I have to own.
Question, I think what it boils down to is the media. Like, the news don't show nothing really good anymore. It shows something bad to stir up the whole world and make everything a big deal when it's really probably nothing. And if the media would show more good, like if it equals out, it will be no problem. Because we're here for a purpose, to love each other. It's one of the 10 Commandments. Love your neighbors as yourself.
It's just amazing how quickly things can escalate. And what I'm trying to say with that is that a law enforcement officer has a fraction of a second to make a decision that can affect the rest of his life, affect the rest of that person's life. And that's something our senses have to be 100% focused on what we're doing.
And I mean, for me, I'm biracial, so my mom is white and my father's African American. So I have a lot of pride, essentially, I guess, about like where I come from, what my culture is. I've known since I was little that, mom was white, dad was black. Like I knew all of that. And I knew the certain stereotypes that go along with that. And it doesn't stop me from being hurt by having African American stereotypes, bad stereotypes placed on me when I'm not fully African American. And the same thing with Caucasian stereotypes that are bad because I'm not fully Caucasian either. But to the point, I just really feel like we're in a place in this country right now where we want to see like the big things going on in our country, and unfortunately a lot of those big things are not great things. And so I feel like what we've seen on the news is a lot of, oh well, a white cop hit or killed a black man, and there's all these variables. And if you've noticed anything that's been going on in the news lately, it's sort of like the same sort of pattern. It's the same sort of I guess, issues surrounding each different incident. But I think we fail to forget that crimes between different races, they happen all the time. And yet we don't hear a lot about a black cop doing something to a white man. We don't hear a lot about a Latino man doing something to a white cop. We don't hear about a lot of these different races. And unfortunately, I think it's because we highlight these big things like what's happened with Trayvon Martin, or what's happened in Ferguson, or take your pick, Baltimore, Charleston.
The media is highlighting, the white officer beating these African American, and I think that it grabs everyone's attention because, historically speaking, African Americans were under slavery in this country. Like, I'm not from this country. I moved here 5 years ago. But something I noticed when I knew the meaning of the word segregation in my country, but I didn't really experience it until I moved here. And it's true. I mean, it's really deep into the culture. I mean, even if you go to the Social Security office and you fill out a form, it asks you what ethnicity you're from. If you're African American, if you're white, if you're Latino. Like, it's so deep into the culture that even when you're filling out a form, it like categorize you.
I had a couple of things somebody's asking for the questions for you specifically. It says, what can a black person do if faced with an officer that is clearly treating a black person differently based on skin color? Or they say another way to say that is, if there is a racist cop treating a black person with unnecessary roughness, what should they do?
Well, I think that our underlying problem in our entire nation is not a brutality problem. I think we don't have a problem with folks doing necessarily wrong. I think our problem across the nation is a lack of respect. It's a lack of respect for ourselves, a lack of respect for our fellow man, a lack of respect for authority. And in the event that you're involved in a traffic stop and you find somebody treating you with something other than the respect that you deserve, because I have been in that situation, I think it's very important that, and this is going to sound weird, but simply do as you're told. When I was growing up, I was commanded by my mother, you do what I tell you when I tell you, period. And as long as I did what Mama said, I was in good shape. And I believe that Romans chapter 13 in the Bible clearly lays out that we are to respect the authority that God has established over us. And I think that in the event that somebody's involved in something and they don't feel like they're being treated fairly, the place to address that is simply not there. You don't address a situation like that on the side of the road. That's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place for anybody to be out on. You don't address that necessarily with that particular person. Everybody who's in an established authority position has somebody simply that's established over top of them.
As your friend commented, oh, well, see, the black people need to stop doing this, the black people need to stop doing this if they want change. I feel like those may be valid points, but my opinion, honestly, is that the very first place that you should start from all of this is you honestly need to be real with yourself and ask yourself, am I in any way contributing to this whole issue of black and white racism?
This, in the story that Mark gives us out of his account of hanging out with Jesus, this is awesome. Jesus was talking to these guys, but right after all the crap hit the fan and he got crucified, he said, "Go into the world, go everywhere, and announce the message of God's good news to one and all. Whoever believes and is baptized is saved. Whoever refuses to believe is damned." So Jesus says, go into all the world, everywhere, and whoever believes. Nowhere in there does it mention any kind of category, any kind of race. That to me is definitely all lives matter for sure.